This thing is stuck. That means it's closed off the right-hand manifold, and it's forcing the exhaust through the intake crossover and out the other side. And I'm wondering if that might not severely limit the amount of CFM that could be pulled through the right bank. I think tomorrow I'm just gonna have to find that out. It's the next day. I have removed the dipstick for visual access to what we're gonna deal with. And yesterday I went down to the post office and this was in the box. That's from Mark in Nebraska. I think he lives in the mountainous region. I love this stuff. So does Mark. He said he's an AMSOIL fan. I don't know how much of an AMSOIL fan. I do have my complaints about AMSOIL, but nothing better. Nothing better. All right, we'll let that sit for a while. I know there's another side to it I need to spray too. I guess I'll go find some ground cover and slide underneath there and do it. Now, it appears as though the shaft is not bound, but the butterfly inside. And if you've ever seen how these shafts are connected to the butterflies, you know that there ain't much meat there. So it's kind of taking a chance hitting on that at all. But just the fact that the shaft is not stuck is kind of a good thing. Obviously, the spring pulls it into the closed position upon cold startup. Don't seem to be getting anywhere. I need something that is less marring. Definitely more travel. But hopefully that's the butterfly and not the shaft to the butterfly attachment. I'm using a light ball peen hammer. More shock value than ramming it through. I might get a heavier hammer if it requires it. Man, I just don't know. The only other thing to do is unbolt the exhaust and drop it down. I really, really, really don't want to do that. And another thing I can do is start it up and let it get hot, and then try doing this. If the casting might expand more than the butterfly does. But the butterfly is going to expand too. And since it's thinner, it's going to expand quicker. Maybe we'll just keep on going the way we are. I think we're getting somewhere. I think it's just, and when it comes back, it's just hitting that stop there. I think I'll fire it up and let it get hot and then play with it. In the meantime, let's see what's behind here. Juice. I always hate when I hit the studs. Me and hammers, we just don't get along. Broke free. Recent lining. Looks good. What's our drum look like? Ooh, nice drum. A little wet. Well, what kind of wet is it? Doesn't smell. Yeah, it does smell like gear lube. It's gear lube wet. Yep. Yep. It's wheel cylinder wet. Oh, what to do? What to do? Gosh. Let's get more time in this thing. I guess it's better to be able to stop than slam into a tree. the bleeder's gonna break loose. Nope. Alright, we'll get to that later. Remember how this goes. There'll be a test later. This is a New Britain tool, which 30, 40 years ago was the brand that Napa carried, but they don't have it anymore. Want to pull the wheel cylinder. I hate it when they did that. I wanted to do it on the car, not on the bench. Rats. Might as well heat them up. Don't ever light your torch like that. Sometimes they like to pop and blow the cups out of the wheel cylinders. Alright, let that come back down to room temperature, then we'll fiddle with it. Ooh, left the wrench laying out in the sun. Ooh, hot, hot, hot. Come on, you can do it. Urgh. Okay, so you can't do it. Also laying out in the sun. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Is it stripping? Of course it's stripping. I mean, I can do it on the bench. There it goes. Yes, it didn't strip. Oh, I forgot. I think those are 7/16. But they're 3/8. Nicely. Let's knock it apart. Well, this side looks awfully rusty. That one's not stuck. That one's not stuck either. However, it could be rust or the pistons don't ride. Let's keep from getting squirted. Here it comes. Trying to keep the pieces from flying everywhere. A little sludgy. Pretty hopeful. Over to the cleaning station. Ooh, hot water. Ooh. Wow, hot, hot, hot water. Pretty ate up. It's pretty pitted. It's raised rust right there, and that'll hone right off, but down inside there, these two rings, that's gonna leak And granted, they're all the way inboard. Alright, I'm going to run a home through it, see what happens. If it was mine, I'd keep honing away and I'd run it. But we're selling this, so $14.58 for a new one, and it's 15 minutes away. I think I'll go. Seth?
Yeah.
Remember that guy that told you about a wheel
Oh,
cylinder for a
man.
66 disc game?
Yes, sir. The channel. What year again exactly?
66.
66. Chevrolet Impala.
Well, disc game.
Biscuit. Wheel cylinder. Front and rear.
Just rear.
Just the rear. We have in stock. Looking at $14.59 a piece. You want two of those?
I would.
Okay. It's like some brake fluid, brake cleaner.
Right and left, please.
Right and left.
I would like some brake cleaning, as a matter of fact.
Boom, two birds, one stone. Oh, man.
Yeah. First I gotta find out why I ain't got power. I've got the air conditioning working.
Comes complete with sound effects.
Hotwire the compressor, I got AC, but
Appears to be.
Well,
Appears to be.
I guess what you could do is just
Who the
put
fuck?
a different relay in it.
Yeah.
In a small town.
I have a relay here.
They would have
4-pin relay.
wheel cylinders for a 1966 Chevrolet.
Jump on, jump
In stock, good to go, and the fronts are just in Medford. We can get them here Monday.
Negative.
the relay.
For now.
I see what you're saying.
And that way,
Dun, dun, dun.
The strongest
I've got
brake
that.
clean
And I've got all the
formula.
wire.
The other kind has power jet technology.
Power jet. You know what that means?
No, I don't.
Because I don't either. For a total of $29.71.
Yeah, there's a switch in there. It's like my neighbor. Of course he's 84 years old.
Thank you.
No trouble. No
See ya.
change.
Oh yeah, change. I'll take change.
Yeah, man.
Receipt. I'll take that too. What would I do without you?
Be grumpy.
Be a quarter. be a quarter porter.
Bam.
When you buy new wheel cylinders, and they come from China, supplied to Napa distributor centers, made in China, you will need to disassemble and inspect them because of the things that you will find. I've already got metal shavings on the rubber there. This piston doesn't want to come out. This one's good to go. It behooves you to do that. More than once I have installed Chinese wheel cylinders only to have them leak. But you won't know that until a day later. You got to take it all back apart again. Always inspect your threads. Oftentimes you will find horrible machining. This one looks good through and through. Especially if you're buy online. Now you guys that leave your comments about how I can get stuff on Rock Auto, I will never ever again in my life buy anything from Rock Auto. And that reason is I have a 1969 GMC with a Timken front axle. This one looks to be pretty good. The Timken front axle, there's some crappy machining on the line threads, but I think we'll be okay. Where was I? Rock Auto. The Timken axle was only used for a half a year on the 3/4 ton Chevrolet and GMC trucks in 1969. Timken and GM had a dispute and they said, okay, well, we're not going to supply you with any more front axles. This has debris inside the threads. I couldn't tell if it was just crappy machining or whether it was debris, and it's debris, so this has got to come apart and get cleaned. I tried to find a pair of brake drums for it. Somewhere there's a video talking about this story, and this has metal filings all over that cup. Enter Rock Auto. The brake drums that were manufactured for those front axles were pretty much just whatever was manufactured for that half a year. So if you find the 11x2 front brake drums for a Timken axle 3/4 ton Chevrolet and GMC, get them. Well, on Rock Auto, don't you know, they had a pair of them. Not only did they have a pair of them, they had them on clearance for $16 a piece and free shipping. Who could say no? Well, I couldn't. They're the correct part number. The picture was correct when they arrived. They had the correct part number on one side of the box. Turn it 90 degrees and there was the Wagner part number. Well, the Wagner number was also correct. The problem is, Wagner never made drums for that, and Wagner does not have a crossover part number for those drums. It was the correct number for the Wagner rear drums. So the con artists at Rock Auto unloaded a pair of drums that are as common as molehills in my yard. Oh, they'll take them back, but you have to pay the shipping to send them back, because after all, they're the wrong part, and you're the one what told them you needed the wrong part. But in order to ship them back, it would cost me $32 each to ship them back. So I was stuck with those highly common drums that they couldn't unload, which is why they had them on clearance. Whoops. Make sure you assemble these correctly. Suffice it to say, I was extremely unhappy with my experience with Rock Auto. If they will stoop that low as to put a part number on something that is not what it is in order to unload it and get it out of their warehouse, they are not the people I want to do business with. So if you ever get your wheel cylinders from Rock Auto, which is the same for online suppliers of classic, and you guys know the stuff you get from classic car parts companies, you better pull everything apart and inspect it before you put it on. Every time. Okay, this one's good to go. That means they're both good to go, which means we're good to go. Always start your brake line before you install your bolts. It'll save yourself a lot of frustration when you do. And then of course, you start them all before you tighten any. And yes, I took a wire wheel to the threads. Click. Click, click. Kudos to whoever did this brake job last, because they cleaned and lubed the barrel on the slack adjuster. Wow, look at that. Delco Moraine. Wow. Wow. Them's old. Alright, once again, let's go over proper shoe placement. Drum brakes. Passenger side rotation of the wheel is this way. The primary shoe is the first shoe to engage the drum. The secondary shoe is the second shoe to engage the drum. Secondary shoe always has the longer lining. Why, you might ask? Well, because the secondary shoe is anchored to the anchor pin. When the rotation is this way, and you apply the brakes, this shoe comes off the anchor pin, and the drum rotation is pulling it in this direction, and it's turning the entire assembly. This shoe remains anchored against the anchor pin, while the pressure against the wheel cylinder pushes the bottom of it outward. Therefore, the rearward shoe is always under more pressure than the forward shoe. So, secondary shoe is always under more pressure than the primary shoe. Therefore, more lining is needed in order to even out the amount of wear on the linings so that the linings wear evenly on the primary and secondary shoes. And there is your drum brake shoe lesson for today. Now, I don't recall if I've gone through the entire procedure of putting brake shoes on a 1966 General Motors vehicle, passenger vehicle. That is a spring washer, goes between the park brake lever arm and the secondary shoe, and the C-clip, which I'm so glad this one has a C-clip and not one of those horseshoe clips that you have to bend. And if you don't do this right, it flies away and it's gone forever. There are two methods of assembly. One is to put the brake shoes together with the slack adjuster and the spring across the bottom, which is what I like to do for front brakes. But with the rear brakes, you have this park brake lever arm, and you have the slack adjuster arm with the spring, return spring rod. So that has to go in there. Your hold down pin is here. Your slack adjuster arm over your hold down pin. And you have this little spacer here. It's a sleeve to center it up in the brake shoe hole, which this one doesn't want to do. That's why. That's why. Orient your hold down pin horizontally, vertically, doesn't matter. Orient your retainer to the same position as the pin. Oh, there it slides on me again. And you're on. When your slack adjuster goes in, it's going to go behind this. So, slack adjuster in place. The spring is designed where it has the bend to clear the wheel on the slack adjuster. Hook that into that shoe. Hook it into your primary shoe. Set the slot of your adjuster against the base of the primary shoe and bring it over that way. Put it up over your hold down pin. Make sure you get your piston pin in place. This one actually has the little washer that went over the hold down pin. It's amazing to find. Small bottom on the hold down spring. Orient your pin. Orient your retainer accordingly. And then when it slides off its perch, then this will pop out. Make it difficult. Oh, I hate when it does that. And when it does, your solution is to grab the return spring and install it. Boy, am I ever out of practice. See, that's the problem. Whoops. It's a lot easier when you're trying to not block the camera. Alright, hold down pin, orient the flat spot on it. Oh, where'd the washer go? I've lost my washer. So with your shoe up here in position, take your park brake link, got your anti-rattle tab on there, engage the park brake lever. Line everything up simultaneously and push it together. So while it's trying to push that apart on you, you need to install the hold down spring. This is the first time ever I have sat in this position with my legs out like this, putting brakes on a car. It's a historical moment for me. It's also a historical moment when somebody actually retained this washer that goes on there, because you never see them, hardly ever. I'm going to orient my pin horizontally, orient my retainer horizontally, slide the spring over it, move the shoe into position, and hopefully it won't slide off the landing while I try to put this on. Like that. With that in place, now you've got to fiddle with this again, and fiddle with this again, Like that. Like that. Brake return spring. Brake return spring tool. And return. Oh! This is missing. If you forget to put this in, then you got to take this all apart again. Well, you got to take that spring off, move the shoe up, then you can pull that out. Then you can put this in where it belongs before you put this on. Put your guide in. You need guidance. Orient your retainer to your pin. Put it on, and you're done. Well, you're not done. You're back where you should have been to start with. Okay, so this one's already, the hold down's already holding down. Get the actuating pin in. That's what it's called, actuating pin. Park brake lever with the little anti-rattle thing there. Return spring. Return spring number 2. See, now the shoe should move itself all the way over like that. Finally! Oh, gosh. Alright, so this down here, you have this little spring. They don't always look the same. Some of them are conical shape. And all I have ever done is taken a screwdriver. In this case, it's going to be the brake adjusting tool. And I have lifted this, stuck the spring there, caught the end of it, and just shoved it underneath. I'll do that again. I think I'm going to have to do this 4 or 5 times and then turn the camera on. Go underneath the bottom of that spring and push it under, like that. There, that's the way I always did it. I was a lot better at it. Of course, I wasn't sitting down with my legs underneath here, but now I'm just making excuses. Let's break the bleeder loose. Oh, don't tell me. Oh, but of course, it's a 10 millimeter. Oh well, our brake drum's all cleaned up, except for the rust part, which is okay because it needs that to resurface itself. That looks like Never Sees. Nope, just silver paint. Wonder if we can do better on the other side. What makes you think I'll turn the camera on? Time to go get a 10 millimeter. Yep, 10 millimeter. Made to exacting specifications. Oh my. Why, it smells sulfurous. Could it be a leaking grease seal? That's all got to come apart and go right in the parts cleaner. Okay, before I take this apart, I suppose I ought to explain to you how the self-adjusting brake mechanism worked. As you can see, there are 2 independent plates in here with a spring between the 2. The inner plate is connected to the anchor pin. The outer plate is the stop for the adjustment wheel with a spring underneath it to keep it in the up position. So what happens? You're going backwards. This is the driver's side. You apply the brakes. The rotation of this assembly wants to go this way with the rotation of the drum. This part right here, because it's connected to the anchor pin, cannot rotate. The lower section can rotate. So as it does, it pulls on right here and actually raises this up. It will raise it like that. And then when you release the brakes, it comes down and it catches the star wheel and turns it. So every time you back up, it catches the star wheel and adjusts it out just a little bit more. And what determines whether or not it can, the farther the shoes go out, the less of this action you will have. So it can't turn it another notch until the lining wears far enough that it allows it to come up high enough to grab the next thing there on the star wheel. Spline, the next spline on the brake adjustment slack adjuster. Wow, 40 years. 40 years. Alright. So before you go to anything, while this is stationary and it won't get away from you, get this little E-clip off of here. Uh-oh. I hear the cry for goat police. Well, if I'm not hearing it now, I'll hear it soon. Let's hear E-clip here. Like it. You don't really think I'm going to buy new shoes for it, do you? I have to pull the other side all apart. Do it all over again. Does that ever have a lot of grease on it? Now, before you keystroke commandos can get your Fruit of the Looms in a frenzy over this, what was supposed to happen here was to make the car able to at least go down the road safely enough for somebody to buy it, because I wasn't going to put a whole bunch of time and money into this thing. Well, now, I've put a whole bunch of time and money into this thing. You just haven't seen it yet. So you're just going to have to keep watching to see what happens. So, coming up in the next video, we're going to have a look-see at the front brakes. So I came over to the other side. And what a revelation. So, now I got to spend that much more money. And we'll find out what all it entails to make that stoppable. And we'll actually go out and hit the pavement. Hey, here we go.
Hot start.
We got lots of episodes coming up. Watch on. Hey, subscribe while you're at it. Throw an extra spring in just for good measure. You don't really think I'm going to make you watch all this, do you? Now, I believe I went over this in another video a long time ago. But you got some wet brake lining and you want to make it dry because you're too cheap to go buy new shoes for it, or you know that somebody's got to replace the grease seals in the thing and they can put new lining on it when they change the grease seals. So what you do is you get your torch. Now in the other video I used the propane and oxygen cutting torch. This time around it's just your standard propane torch. And wherever you see orange flame, you know you're getting the geeb out of the lining. But you don't want to just hold it on there, because then you'll do what's called coking, and you'll carbonize whatever, in this case gear lube, you'll carbonize it down inside the lining, so as the top layer wears off, then the bottom layer has the carbonized lining, and it doesn't work as well. And the other thing you don't want to do is make the lining red hot. Because if you make the lining red hot, then you're causing it to disintegrate and turn to a collected powder, shall we say, so that in the event of heavy braking, it turns into a powder and you no longer have brake linings. Obviously, the flame is going to heat the surface, but you want to get it hot through and through. Now, if this were bonded lining, I'd just go ahead and buy new shoes for it, although I don't want to. But since it's riveted, we can get away with this. And up through the brakes come a bubbling lube. Apply your favorite solvent, be it brake clean, carburetor cleaner, acetone, lacquer thinner, to help strip the excess material from said lining. It's going to get hot. And then we're going to heat it some more. If you're working on a vehicle that cannot be repaired, or does not have parts readily available, I should say, this can get you back in the field. Welding up inside the rivet heads. It's getting better. This must have been the bottom side. It keeps spewing forth liquid. You can get the surface good and dry. The first time you step on the brakes, get them good and hot. This is what's going to happen to you. All that lube's going to bloom right to the surface. When it quits bubbling and smoking, then you'll know you got most of it out. And just keep doing it over and over again. Smoking. All together now. Alright, time to throw the drum on, open up the bleeders, start pulling some fluid through. Yeah, I went out to the shed and dug out a couple of old Chevy Rallies with some 15-inch snow diggies on them. Matched pair. Imagine that. Aside from that, good news, bad news. Good news is I was able to quickly diagnose the problem with the right front brake. Bad news is I gotta spend money again. I hate having to spend money again. I was kind of curious as to how this got destroyed. Just don't see it like that. A crack and split and break and burst, but not like that. So I came over to the other side, and what a revelation. It's those wheels they had on here with the incorrect offset. They're a real deep 5-spoke. Well, you saw them in the beginning. So those are reaching their way over there and chewing on the brake lines. But those won't be going back on, but they'll go with the car. So now I gotta spend that much more money. Wait, this is the tool that I wanted. Got too much oxygen on it. Let's knock it apart. Let's knock it apart. I need a rag. This old glove will do. Cooperate. Focusing. Almost. Pretty pitted. No. It's Saturday. So this has got to come apart and get cleaned. I don't know what that's all about. Kudos to whoever did this brake job last, because they cleaned and lubed the barrel. Kudos to whoever did this brake job last, because these were always kind of nightmarish. This part. Where's my clip? Oh no. Oh no. Oh wait. I gotta clean these up. Nice and clean. I'll set this side up, put the primary shoe on. Set this side up, put the primary shoe on. Oh, you're gonna do this to me, are you? Don't tell me that's the wrong spring. Spring with a small loop on the bottom for the primary shoe. Spring with a large end on the bottom is for the secondary shoe. Park brake lever. Orient your retainer. Same position as the pin. And get angry because it doesn't go on this way either. Orient your pin. Orient your retainer accordingly. Try to do it all with one hand.
Seth? Too professional.
Okay, we'll do that again.
Thank you.
Seth?
Yeah.